Hey legends, welcome along to the Indie Chronicles. Now finally we're getting into the tastiest project that I've done to this point, conclusions, and we're going to get into a little watch of the director episode right here, and I'm going to take you through some of the motivations and some of the stories of how the script came about and just everything that happened throughout production while we're watching the movie. So let's get into it. Alright, so here we go guys. Just going to play about with the sound here a little bit, make sure I'm not going to cut anything out. Okay, we've got the Coins Age Media logo, that's been changed since the beginning. Some tasty shots here at the beginning of it on the coast. I've had this idea from the start. This was always the beginning of the film for me, and I wanted some really angry music to open it up to kind of reflect the mental space that our main character is in at the beginning of the movie. So this is a reflection of real life for me. When I was going through my divorce, didn't handle it that well, and I used to drive down to this actual spot, whenever things was getting on top of me. I went down there to chill out, reflect on things, and at one point actually went through everything the character goes through here, standing at the side of the water on top of the rocks looking in, and considering stepping off the edge. I've got no problems in saying that that's where it came from. So interesting point about this whole part in the car where he's sitting there. While we were shooting that, there was tons of cars in the background. Some guy was sitting in this diesel engine car making so much noise, and had to re-record all the sound here in this section of just looking at Paul and the car. So that was a pain in the ass. So this is a flashback to just prior to him going down to the ocean side, and a little argument between him and his current girlfriend. The concept here is the main character, Paul here, is similar to myself, trying to get over a past heartbreak, and is affecting his new relationship with this young woman. So yeah. So it's a great little scene here, really like us. Interestingly enough, Annie, this little girl here, has now acted in quite a few TV projects, so her career is kicking off in a major way. So we cut back now to the ocean side for a change. My car is 100% clean. They say a director should always put himself into his projects, and at the very beginning there, as the car was driving down towards the camera, I was behind the wheel. Can't see me, but I'm in there. So this guy, Paul here, actually did the music for this short film as well. Put a lot of work into it, and yeah, I'm forever grateful for that. This is a little flashback here of him remembering the past relationship and his ex-girlfriend or ex-wife. She's handing the ring back to him, leaving. Now this whole section with these two interacting with each other wasn't in the draft of the film that I was going to put into production. I actually finished the script, got it to a place where I thought it was ready to go, and I showed it to a fella, and this scene wasn't in it, and his advice to me was, you need something there to really bring the audience in, let them know what's going on in this guy's head. And I wrote this little dialogue sequence between these two, and I'm not the sort of director that is super anal about the dialogue and everything. I kind of write a scene, give it to the actors, and let them not flash it out or change it so much, but just to make it sound a little bit more natural and the way that they would say it, the way they would see the characters. And these two changed a few lines here and there while they were doing it, but I was like, as long as you hit A, B and C, getting through this dialogue scene, say it whatever way you want. And it actually ended up in one of the things that I'm most proud of in my short history as a filmmaker. This is probably the biggest, well, there's no probably about it, this is the biggest project I've done to this point, and great learning experience. The director of photography on this project is actually a veteran in the industry, and I was actually saying to him, whenever he got in contact with me to do this film, he gave me his CV of everything that he'd worked on up to this, and a lot of television, a lot of documentary work. And I was like, okay, 6 months later, guys waking up happy for a change. See, everything seems to be in the up. But anyway, the director of photography, we were finished pretty much everything on the project, and me and him were out on our own, getting some of the all the shots of that car sequence at the very beginning of the film. We've done that last, and I asked him, I'm like, Frank, why the heck, with the career that you've had up to this point, why are you stepping down to a lower level to help me make this thing? And he's like, I've never done a short film before. So it just goes to show you, no matter how far up the ladder you go in this sort of thing, it's just, you never know who's going to help you, where and when. Anyway, back to the film. This guy is up, happy, forgot something leaving the room. He goes back to get it. You seen him putting it in his pocket there. This is his roommate that helped him at the water side, talked him down. And he's making his morning coffee, chilling out. Now, coming back to this movie after a couple of years, there's a lot of stuff in here that I would probably trim down a lot more than it's in there at the moment. So another little dialogue sequence between these two, and yes, Paul is taking his medication here. Everything seems to be on the up with him. So essentially here, these guys, Neil here, he notices the change in attitude with him this morning. He's never this up. I wrote the character as someone that was getting over a past heartbreak, but there's a little bit more below the surface there. He's on medication for some sort of mental issues that he's going through, and this is completely out of character for him to be this high up in the morning. And he reveals to his body here that he has indeed got a ring, and he's going to ask the new woman to marry him. So this is the big turnaround for our main character, and his roommate here is over the moon for him to go get her, essentially. So some good stuff there, like out there where Neil actually slaps him in the ass and puts him out of the kitchen. That's all stuff that he brought to the thing on his own. The directing of the people in this film was, so easy. They were all on board for the project, and so good. So we're heading off now to for Paul to meet up with Annie here and ask her to marry him. And there was a debate with a few of the guys that was giving me notes on this film. Like, you'll notice here, whenever we get to the end of the sequence, it skips back in time slightly. You see the same side, or the different side of the same scenario. Now, it was suggested she's getting a phone call here, but we don't see, or we don't hear the conversation. So that's intentional, and we're continuing with Paul at this point and everything that he's doing. But we skip back a little bit later on, and we see from that point what was happening. And there was some discussion with the same guy that, gave me the advice to write that little dialogue scene on the rocks at the side of the ocean. It was the same guy was like, you could probably put these two together instead of keeping them separate. But I decided not to go that way. Just felt when you're editing something, writing something, I like to go at it from an emotional, way of doing it, and it just in an emotional way. It just seemed more natural to do it this way. This sequence here, in all fairness, could be cut down a lot, where he's in buying these gifts. Interestingly, this sequence here was the very first thing we shot. It was like 2 days before the rest of the short film. So yeah, you see what I mean now. Watching this back, like I'm saying it myself, as the guy that wrote and directed this. There's a lot of pieces of this here that could be trimmed down in a major way. This part in particular, but whenever you see the other side of the coin, right here, coin's age. Whenever you see the other side of the coin, you'll realise why I kind of dragged that out so long. I've never actually timed the two of them together, but it is what it is. So this is the turning point right here. He gets to the park where he's going to meet her, and he sees her in the arms of another man. And the switch is flicked in his head, and he walks off. So he's going into his pocket now, he pulls out the ring, has a little look at it, and he's like devastated. And we get another shot of these two having a nice little chat with each other, and now he's checking out her photograph as a screensaver on his phone. And once again, we go into his memories. We see that image of the marriage breakup and the ex-wife leaving him. And he makes that decision. That's why it's called conclusions. His body happens to be out as well. Sees this happening. We cut as he steps out in front of a car. That's when we cut back and we see the other side of the story. So, again, we see a few of the similar shots that we've already seen in the film. And he's sitting down, Paul coming down the street in a good mood, going to meet her. And we cut back to his flatmate putting the coat on and leaving the house. And yeah, that's pretty much the setup for these characters to bump into each other later. Now we get to see the other side of the conversation. So this is a call from her business partner, let's just say, someone that's working with her, and she's calling her up for something to do with work. And she's setting up a meeting for the next day. This was going to be a connection to a movie that was going to follow this one up that was never made. So she hangs up the phone, and we get a little look. No, we don't actually. I thought I had put a shot of Paul as a screensaver there. Now we get to meet this guy and see who he is. So basically, what's going on here is this guy is actually related to her. They're cousins that the main character hasn't met, and she's telling him that she has it worked out. She knows exactly what's going on in the guy's head. He's going to ask her to marry him. She's over the moon, and this guy, whenever Paul appears, is just congratulating her. So there you are, you get that shot of Paul at the gate again, and instead of following him, we continue on with these pair, and they, you'll have to meet him sometime and whatnot. And that's it. He gets up and leaves. Now this guy was really passionate about getting involved in this movie. I was having a hard time getting this casted, and this guy was super excited to get into something, and really pulled my ass out of the flames at one point. So to finish off this little sequence with her, we see there it is. She unlocked the phone. If you look close, you've seen Paul's photograph there as a screensaver. This is actually my phone she's using. and she's opening up a text message, and she starts typing something. That's when we cut back. We hear the skid marks of the car, the thump, and we see Paul in the street and his buddy finding him. The girl that was driving the car was actually the girl that did the behind the scenes video for the making of the film. So his friend, devastated, and we cut back to Annie sitting there with a smile on her face, waiting on Paul, who's never going to turn up. If you looked at the phone really closely, it was a text message coming in from her. Hurry up, pet, I love you, you know. So we close it out with the credits, and again, produced, directed, edited by me, Frank Carr, legend, director of photography. Chris Roberts doing the sound, absolute gentleman, really good guy to work with. Score by Paul Black, that's the guy that was the main character as well. And yeah, so we get into the rolling credits here, and again, Paul did all the music there. This is him singing at the end of the movie. Pauline Reed, the florist, is the mother of one of my friends that helped us out. This was slightly funded by a lot of people on a crowdfunding campaign. This is them all been listed at the end of it. And yes, I give Pauline special thanks for helping out with the shop. And yeah, the council and everything. Cause the members of the North Coast Film Collective that helped me make it. Kevin Smith for making Clerks, a film that inspired me to make a film. Message from me: if I can make a film, you can too. Don't let them stop you. Big love, Rodney. And it's dedicated to anybody dealing with thoughts of depression and suicide. So there we go. That is basically conclusions in a nutshell. Great time. So guys, that's going to do it for this little watch of the director video. I hope it made sense to you. I hope I've actually recorded the sound properly in this here. I will be pissed if I go to edit this thing and I cannot get the sound and the volume and everything to work properly. I will be so angry with myself, but it is what it is. Anyway, that's going to do it, guys. Thank you so much for checking this out and supporting me on Patreon. I couldn't do any of this stuff without you. And next time we do one of these videos, it will be for some newer content. We're caught up now and going into 2022. We're going to be delving into the mind of a middle-aged idiot that's actually writing stuff. And to give you a little heads up, this isn't actually a script that I've been working on at the minute. It's entitled Doomsday. Right now this is a vomit pass, and I'm currently 66 pages into this draft. So yes, watch out for some content coming soon on that and a lot of other projects that I'm playing about with.